FBG Cash, born Tristan Hamilton, was a GD from 63rd in St. Lawrence. He actually moved to the SDL neighborhood when he was around 13 years old. Growing up from just a chick, he was already being exposed to the street life. And although his father made sure to instill valuable life lessons into Cash to make him a better man, he couldn't help but to absorb street knowledge as well, as his father himself was in the streets. According to Cash, he would often attend his high school classes, but all in all, it just wasn't for him, and he eventually dropped out. It wouldn't be long after that he was sent to prison for the first time at the age of 18 for armed robbery, where he ended up doing 6 years. After dropping out of high school, for some, an education can be the last thing on their minds, but not for Cash. He actually obtained his GED while in prison. Once he was released, he enrolled in college and began taking some courses. The way Cash moved showed that he was trying to build a life outside the streets, but having to maneuver throughout the streets daily would prove almost impossible to do. In fact, as time progressed, things got more and more deadlier, and although there have been no shootings or casualties directly tied to Cash's name that I know of, he admitted in his music that he had shot plenty of guys in the rack. Unlike his father, who came up in a different era in Chicago, Cash lived by the code, shoot first, ask questions later. Unfortunately, that code would cost him many of his close friends who he considered to be more like family, one of them being Tuka. Shondell Gregory, aka Tuka, actually moved to the STL neighborhood in his preteen years. When he initially arrived, he was targeted and bullied by those already living there, so he kept a knife on him. His mother assumes that part of that mob included Lil J and FBG Dub. She claimed the local gang showed up at her front door to fight Tuka, but that is where they met her, where
baseball bat, I had my hot beach water.
After many run-ins with the gang, he was eventually accepted by the SDL crew, which included FBG Cash. Joining this set of young GDs meant that he automatically was ops to BDs such as Lemron, Front Street, and of course, O Block. Unfortunately for him, another set of ops, referred to as TYMB, will catch up to him on January 12, 2011. Cash claimed that
Tuka was in the streets. You know what I'm saying? Tuka was in the streets.
And that is what eventually cost him his life. According to Tuka's mother, this is what happened that day. Tuka was sitting at the bus stop at 63rd in St. Lawrence chatting with the female, as she considered him a ladies' man. The shooter was dropped off as if to catch a bus. He walked up and asked Tuka if another bus was coming or how long it was going to be to throw him off guard, and then began firing, hitting Tuka initially once. Tuka tried to throw a trash can in his defense, but instead he fell on top of the can as he was injured. That's when the shooter stood over him and shot him 5 more times. The shooter was accused of being TYMB Cortez, who is now referred to as Cortez, due to one of his buns being $100,000. But this is just hearsay. From then on, the SDL crew will be known as
Tuka, man.
Eventually, FBG Cash will release 2 songs, Tuka Gang Part 1, which is a Brick Squad diss, and Tuka Gang Part 2. He even got Tukaville tatted across his stomach in honor of his fallen comrade. Tuka was 15 at the time of his passing, but FBG Cash was 20. Being older than a lot of members meant that he knew a little more and could maneuver a little differently throughout the streets. Sadly, other younger members would continue to lose their lives before they could even reach the age of 20. This number would include Rodney Stewart, better known to some as Boss Trail. He was a prominent part of the SDL crew, not only because he was a sharpshooter, but he taught his gang how to shoot and maintain their weapons for better precision. On November 12, 2012, just 2 days after he purchased a bus ticket to leave the city, due to him being hunted by rival gang members, he was found executed. Cash held his hand on his deathbed and watched as his friends slip away. He ended up tatting BT's name on him as well, and would soon find himself tatting Trail's cousin's name on him the very next year. That cousin would be K.I., one of the deadliest females in the game. She definitely lived by the code, shoot first, ask questions later, which meant she was not to be trifled with, but it also meant that she had a giant target on her back. On April 11, 2014, she went about her everyday routine. She, FBG Butter, and another guy began walking to a friend's house. This day was also BT's birthday. As she walked, she tweeted out 6347 TMB, which happened to be her location. She had only walked about 2 blocks when allegedly King Von caught up to her and killed her. 5 years later, on September 19, 2019, he would mourn the loss of 051 Melly. Melly, who was known as the Gravedigger for more than obvious reasons, was cool with different sets. One night he shot dice with a guy named 0078 and they ended up beefing. Allegedly, Nelly would retaliate by shooting up Nate's house, only Nate wasn't inside. His baby mama and newborn were. Luckily, no one was injured. Later, Melly attended a party for Can't Get Right. It was thrown by FBG in Gyro City, but they let him know his ops may be present in the party. Some sources believe that Nate slid through and shot and killed Melly, adding another loss to the growing death toll for Cash, but the proof never surfaced. The very next year, on August 4th, 2020, the O Block 5 made their way from O Block to the Gold Coast and took the life of Chiraq street legend FBG Duck. Duck had gone to the Gold Coast to shop for a present for his son's birthday. He pulled up with his girlfriend and a guy named Day Day, who was cousin to one of the shooters named Muwak. It is believed that either his girlfriend going live and revealing their location is what led to the shooting, or either that Day Day had dropped their location. But again, this is just hearsay. Nevertheless, 2 cars pulled up and 4 members of the O Block 5 began shooting FBG Duck and his girlfriend. Duck's life could have been saved had the police moved in an emergency fashion, but instead, they just left him in the street to die. Although FBG Cash was locked up for several years, he still considered these guys to be his family. The war in Chiraq would leave him in a state of mourning year after year after year. And what better way to ease your pain than music? Cash would start rapping in 2012. In the earlier years, his music was not as successful as other members of FBG, but after finally being released from prison, he began to take off. He became known for songs such as Computer Murderers, Front Door, and Back Again 2 Times. It would seem that his career had finally begun to move in the right direction, or perhaps this is when trouble began to find him more often. For instance, Cash put out a claim that he and Chief Keef's mother were casually dating while he was only 16.
Calling Chief Keef my own man, you know what's happening. Real shit. Hey, yeah, man, I ain't mean to hang up on you and shit. Hey, what's up, man? When you gonna give me tickets to your son's show or something? I said, when you gonna give me tickets to one of your son's show or something? That little nigga hot. Yeah.
Many began to suspect that his accusations would put a target on his back. At one point, he began talking to an IG model named Tasha West, and her boyfriend was not too pleased to hear this. In fact, Cash did an interview with Drea O where he claimed that after leaving Rap-A-Lot recording studio, he went to chill with Tasha. She picked him up and drove him to her house. Around 4:20 a.m., she began to get frustrated because her boyfriend kept blowing up her cell. After chilling for a while, Cash decided to get dropped off at home. On the way, a car pulled up behind them. Cash thought he was 12, so he took his pistol. And that is when the shots began to penetrate the vehicle. Unfortunately, he was hit by bullet fragments. By the time Cash was able to up his pistol, the vehicle had veered off. He admitted that he believed she could have set him up, but he also thought the guy could have been targeting her. Another situation transpired, but this time between Cash and Lil Durk. Although Cash claimed in an interview that he and Durk were cousins, they began going back and forth on IG. It is rumored that a video of Lil Durk and O Block dissing Wooski, another FBG member who was shot in the head while attending his cousin Dooski's funeral, is what led to the beef. Some words were exchanged, and Dirk ended up telling Cash to go post up in front of Von's mural and see what happened. Not only did Cash post up for a photo op, but he did so while flipping the middle finger and leaving a disrespectful caption on the picture. He then responded to Dirk's video with the video back again 2 times. Dirk responded to that video with computer murderers when he disses Wooski again and addresses Cash for posting up next to Von's mural. Cash claimed that Dirk then blocked him. In the same interview where he claimed he and Dirk were cousins, he also said that he wanted to leave FBG. It could have been because he was accused of backdooring FBG Duck. Cash was accused on live of stealing Duck's money, but Mama Duck did an interview letting everyone know that she can't be convinced that it was Cash. Cash and Mama Duck went on live a separate time where she claimed Cash told her Duck was only given $5,000 of a profit from a concert that was thrown. But this may have been because the $5,000 was for a performance, despite the promoter bringing in $100,000. Around this time, it seemed that Cash was making enemies left and right. He had words with Duck's mom, which is why he didn't attend the funeral, but she said she wouldn't be blamed for him not showing up. Cash, who was known to move carefully, seemed to be a little more trusting than usual because the old Cash seemed like, after being shot at in a car with a female who he admitted he believed could have set him up, he would have just cut ties. But somehow, I guess due to quote-unquote pleasurable circumstances, he ended up right back in the car with Tasha West, only this time he wouldn't live to tell about it. On June 9th, 2022, Tasha West picked up Cash in her Ford rental due to her other vehicle being shot up, and they met up with Rap-A-Lot at a club. After leaving the club, they stopped by one of his homeboys' house to chill and basically lay up. Afterwards, she showered and they headed out, this time with Cash in the driver's seat. There have been claims that it was less than a 5-minute drive to Cash's destination, but Tasha felt so sleepy that she climbed in the back seat and took a nap. Trench's Newz claimed that when he asked her how she could basically sleep so quickly, she couldn't really provide an explanation. At this time, it was the next morning, June 10th, around 5:30 a.m. As Cash approached the stop sign of the 1600 block of West 81st Street, he was cut off by a black sedan. There were residents' cars parked on both sides of the street and cars pulling up behind him at the time, which unfortunately for him meant that he was blocked in. One guy hopped out with an assault rifle while 1 or 2 others shot with handguns and began firing into the rental. Not only was Cash struck, but so was Tasha. Cash grabbed his strap and began firing back, but he was no match for the assault rifle. According to some, he ran for cover behind a tree, but was eventually gunned down. Due to the shooting occurring in a residential neighborhood, some people were not only witnesses to this brutal shooting, but they also heard the suspects talking. They went onto the Citizens app, and this is what they had to say in the comments. As you can see, 2 people even confirmed that the police sat and watched the whole event transpire, but never tried to intervene. One cop in the report says she saw a car fleeing the scene, which perhaps could have been the killers. According to the police report, Tasha was shot in her left forearm and left shoulder blade and was found sitting on the curb. FBG Cash was found face down in the grass with multiple gunshot wounds. One resident even took photos of him lying there and posted them online. He was taken to the Advocate Christ Medical Center where he was pronounced dead at 6:06 a.m. After his death, many went online to either pay their respects or to, as suspected, diss the dead.
Yeah, my boy.
No, we coming.
Yeah,
Smoking cash.
yeah.
Ooh!
Yeah.
Just a day before he was killed, he did an interview with Truth Teller, letting the world know that he had music deals in the making. His video, Back Again 2 Times, had even reached over 2.5 million. FBG Cash was talented and well on his way to achieving his goals of leaving Chiraq and providing an honest means to take care of his family. It seems that when majority of these young talented rappers get one foot out of the door, their skeletons pull them back for one final fatality. Hearts broke throughout Chicago and the country for you, Cash. You will be missed. This has been the story of FBG Cash. Rest in peace to all those who lost their lives.